Hey everyone, welcome back to another explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely crucial for the healthcare and pharma worlds, regulatory inspection readiness. We're going to pull from some great insights on the Everblink Health Care blog to see how safety standards are actually enforced, and, more importantly, why it matters so much to all of us.
So let me ask you, what do you think is the absolute biggest threat to a pharmaceutical company's success? I mean, you probably instantly picture a failed clinical trial, right? Like years of research and millions of dollars just hitting a brick wall in the lab. Totally fair guess. But there's another threat out there, one that's often completely overlooked, but it's just as critical.
The real answer? A failed regulatory inspection. Now, this usually happens entirely behind the scenes, away from the public eye. But man, its implications for patient safety, product quality, and honestly, sheer business survival, they're massive. These inspections, they aren't just your standard box-ticking exercises. They are the strict, heavy-hitting enforcement mechanisms that actually keep our healthcare products safe. And the stakes here? They are severe, and they are swift. A successful inspection basically validates that a company has robust, reliable systems. But failing one? Wow, that triggers official warning letters, massive product recalls, import restrictions, or just crippling delays in getting life-saving drugs approved. And once that public trust is broken, the fallout is basically catastrophic.
To really grasp how this whole ecosystem functions, we need to get our baseline concept straight: inspections versus audits.
You know, these two terms get thrown around interchangeably all the time, but they serve entirely distinct purposes. A regulatory inspection, that's an external health authority coming in to actively assess your compliance. An internal audit, on the other hand, is a company's systematic, proactive review to spot gaps before they turn into regulatory nightmares. The best way to think about it is like this. The inspection is the high-stakes final exam, and the audit, that's your vital practice test.
So when it's time for that final exam, what exactly are they hunting for? Let's take a look under the microscope at what regulators look for.
The very first thing regulators zero in on is documentation. Proper record-keeping is literally the absolute foundation of operational control. Authorities expect paperwork to be complete, accurate, legible, traceable, and, this is key, instantly accessible. If an inspector asks for a testing log from, say, 2 years ago, yeah, they're not going to sit around waiting a week for you to dig it out of some basement archive.
Now, what's really interesting about this stark warning is that it's basically the golden rule of the industry. If an activity isn't documented properly, regulators consider it not performed at all. Just think about the weight of that for a second. You could execute a highly complex procedure absolutely flawlessly, but if you didn't log it according to strict protocol, in the eyes of the regulator, it simply never happened. Nowhere around it. Moving beyond just the paperwork, inspectors heavily assess your quality management systems. They're going to ask things like, how do you handle change control? What actually happens during a deviation? Do you have corrective and preventative actions, or CAPA, firmly in place? Strong systems show them a genuine culture of compliance, rather than a culture of just scrambling around trying to put out fires reactively.
Next up is data integrity, and let me tell you, this has rapidly become a top global priority. Inspectors rigorously evaluate if data is original, accurate, and completely reliable throughout its entire lifecycle. In an industry that's getting more digital by the second, any hint of data manipulation, or honestly, even just sloppy access controls, doesn't just earn a slap on the wrist, it triggers immediate, severe regulatory action.
But here's the catch. Flawless procedures mean absolutely nothing without properly trained staff to execute them. During an evaluation, authorities will pull training records to verify actual competency. They want to ensure employees don't just know what buttons to push, but that they truly understand the regulatory and patient safety why behind their daily tasks.
Understanding all those requirements takes a pretty massive mindset shift. Let's pivot over to building year-round readiness.
One of the biggest misconceptions out there is that you can just cram, like start preparing a few weeks before regulators show up. Real readiness is built continuously across 3 core pillars. First, internal audits with structured plans to catch weaknesses early. Second, documentation discipline, meaning real-time recording and strict version control. And third, training teams to genuinely recognize compliance risks. Honestly, well-prepared employees are your absolute best defense.
All right, so you've done the long-term work. What actually happens when the stressful day finally arrives? Let's talk about surviving inspection day.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how the process goes down. When authorities walk through the door, expect a strict 5-stage sequence. It kicks off with an opening meeting to set the scope. Then, the facility review, where inspectors literally walk the live production floor. Step 3 is that grueling document examination we talked about. Step 4, direct employee interviews about their daily routines. And finally, a closing meeting to formally discuss any observations. Being transparent and cooperative through all of this, totally non-negotiable.
Now, I want to pause here for a second, because no organization is completely perfect. Receiving inspection observations doesn't automatically mean you failed. What really matters is your response. You've got to investigate root causes thoroughly, implement corrective actions right away, and monitor those fixes so the issue doesn't pop up again. The companies that embrace this cycle, they actually emerge stronger.
Which brings us right to our final takeaway. Preparation is a mindset.
So, the crucial point is this. Preparation is not an event. It is a mindset. The organizations that actually thrive in this super highly regulated space are the ones cultivating a culture of compliance 365 days a year. They literally never rely on a last-minute panic, because ongoing, proactive preparation is exactly what builds a healthcare system based entirely on trust, reliability, and accountability.
I want to leave you with something to really reflect on, whether you work directly in healthcare or just rely on the complex systems that keep us all safe. Think about your own organization's culture. Are you just reacting to compliance when the pressure is on, or are you living it every single day? Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with me. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.